So, today we're going to talk about something that sounds, well, a little crazy. We're asking, what if you could learn basically any new skill in just 48 hours? I know, it sounds like science fiction, right? But let's find out if it's actually possible.
I mean, come on, 48 hours? It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? Is that for real, or is it just some catchy book title? Well, we're going to find out by following the story of someone who actually put this whole idea to the test.
All right, let's dive in and meet our main character, a guy named Rogov. And trust me, his situation is something a lot of us have probably felt. He was facing a classic, super modern problem. Picture this, Rogov is just drowning at work. The more he tried to learn, the more lost he felt. He was under all this pressure to constantly pick up new skills, and it just left him feeling totally stressed out and stuck. He knew he needed to learn faster, but he had absolutely no idea where to even start. And then, one night, he stumbles across his book by Tanzil Ali. That title alone just jumped out at him, like a lifeline. He probably thought, no way, could this actually be real? This book wasn't just a book, it was the start of a massive change for him.
Okay, so this is where things get really cool. Let's get into the first game-changing technique that Rogov learned. It's a method that's been around since ancient Greece, but for him, it felt like straight-up magic. It's called the Memory Palace.
So what in the world is a memory palace? Well, the core idea is pretty brilliant. The book argues that memory isn't just a skill, it's an art. A memory palace works by taking new, boring, abstract information and mentally placing it in a location you know like the back of your hand. Your own house, your walk to work, whatever. It works so well because our brains are naturally amazing at remembering places. This technique just hacks that built-in superpower.
So how'd Rogov actually build one? It's way simpler than it sounds. First, he picked his house, a place he could walk through in his mind, no problem. Second, he started linking the things he needed to learn to specific objects in his home. And third, and listen, this is the most important part, he made those mental pictures as wild, colorful, and crazy as he possibly could. The more exaggerated the image, the better you remember it.
So for example, to remember something like photosynthesis, he didn't just read the definition, no. He imagined his living room sofa turning into a massive, vibrant green leaf, literally soaking up sunlight that was pouring through his window. I mean, how are you going to forget an image like that? And this worked for everything. To remember Newton's laws of motion, he imagined a bright red apple just dramatically falling from the ceiling and landing, bam, right on his dining room table with a huge thud. He was basically turning these boring, abstract ideas into a movie set inside his own home, and it just stuck. Okay, but remembering information is only half the battle, right? You also have to get all that information into your brain, and quickly. This brings us to Rogov's next big hurdle, learning how to read way, way faster. So here's the thing that slows almost all of us down, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it. It's called subvocalization. You know that little voice in your head that reads the words along with you? Yeah, that's the culprit. It's a huge bottleneck because you can only read as fast as you can talk. The goal of speed reading is to shut that voice up and let your eyes just scan the information directly.
To do this, Rogov learned a few really simple tools. He started using his finger as a pointer, which forces your eyes to move faster than that inner voice can keep up. He also trained himself to stop reading word by word and started seeing whole groups of words, or blocks, all at once. And finally, he learned to always skim the material first. Read the headings, the first and last sentences, to get a mental map before diving in.
And the effect was just wow. It wasn't a small improvement, it was a total game changer. The book puts it perfectly. He literally felt like his eyes had suddenly developed a superpower, and he could just absorb information at this incredible speed.
All right, so Rogov had the theory down. He's got his memory palace, he's got his super speedy reading eyes, but would any of this actually work under pressure, in the real world? Well, it was time for a test. One day, his boss drops this absolute monster of a report on his desk. 50 pages. The old Rogov would have totally panicked. This was the kind of thing that would have taken him all day, maybe even longer. And the worst part? It was due by the end of the day.
But this was the new Rogov. He fired up his speed reading techniques to absorb all the key information. He mentally placed all the main points into his memory palace. And he finished that entire 50-page report in just 2 hours. 2 hours.
And the result? You can just imagine his boss's face. He was completely blown away. This wasn't just about finishing a task faster, it was about showing a totally new level of skill and efficiency. Rogov proved that these techniques actually worked when it mattered most.
This brings us to the final, and honestly, probably the most important lesson from Raghav's whole journey. The techniques were amazing, but they weren't the whole story.
So here's the ultimate takeaway. The memory palace, speed reading, these are just tools. Really powerful tools for sure. But the real power, the secret sauce, comes from the commitment to practice these skills every single day. That's what turns them from clever tricks into life-changing habits.
And that leaves us with one final thought. These methods gave Raghav the tools to completely change his approach to his career and his life. So, what about you? If you had these tools at your disposal, what's the one skill you would want to master in the next 48 hours?